Shri Chaitanya Manupistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakaramayam Dadati Swavanantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishnapista Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pajoyne Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pishatari Shatarine Vanchakapati Visha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You ladies want to come more to the front? Okay, so welcome to our second and last session on the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. So yesterday we were introducing the topic, basically saying false ego makes us think to be something which we are not, and we identify with all these roles because they give us a sense of importance, that we are somebody, some gratification, some recognition. And yes, and we were saying as long as we think ourselves to be something which we are not, we can't be really peaceful, right? There will be always some anxiety. How can we pretend and convince everybody that we are something which we are not? Actually, Prabhupada gives this nice example of the nonsensical stage performance. That life in the material world is like a nonsensical stage performance. And this is really what it is. Every lifetime, it's like some crazy circus there. We are on the stage, and one life we are Indian man. Okay, we're running around. Oh, I'm so busy, so many important things to do. Busy, busy, busy. So, and then death comes. Then death comes and show is over. Curtain is closing. It's all finished. And then the next nonsensical stage performance. Next life, maybe woman in Germany. So again, running, so busy, so many important things to do. We really take it in. And then again, curtain closes, death. That's it, boom, finished. And then maybe next life, dog in Sweden, barking. I'm so busy, I've got so much important things here to do. Dogs also have a dog's mind, dog's intelligence, dog's false ego. So dogs have quite a strong false ego, They really identify, this is my property here, I have to protect this, and. So like that, lifetime after lifetime, nonsensical stage performance. Prabhupada's word combinations are often very unique, Even that's why everybody in ISKCON should learn enough English to read Prabhupada's books in English. Because every time you translate, you lose this unique word combination, It's like when you change money, every time you change, you lose. So same thing, every time you translate, you lose something. Yeah, so, and then we were also discussing 1858, where Krishna is giving us these two choices of acting, right? If we act in consciousness of Krishna, we overcome all the obstacles of conditioned life. But if we act through false ego, not hearing Krishna, we will be lost. So, and then from there we were getting to the two different motivating forces, that the ambitious false ego motivating force is to become somebody, right? And this is even in Krishna consciousness like that, trying to become a guru, sannyasi, worldwide traveling preacher, famous, speaker, and famous kirtaniya, and So that's the ambitious false ego motivation, which is not based on empowerment of Krishna and his devotees. It's based on false ego. Yes. And then there's the other motivating force where we just want to serve. All we want to do is serve, serve, serve. And that attracts Krishna's blessings and empowerment. Yes. So, and we were saying, naturally, when we come to Krishna consciousness, our motivation is not pure. There's a good portion of passion and false ego in it. So, all right, but we should know that eventually we have to purify it. Eventually we have to come to this point of simply wanting to serve. Yes. And we were mentioning that powerful statement in Nectar of Devotion, where Prabhupada says, as long as we have any desire to become a more and more important person, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, we actually cannot relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. What we relish is the false ego gratification. Let's be clear in this. Yes. I mean, we won't have time to get to this, but in the false ego book, there's a whole section on kirtan, because kirtan can be the scenario to feed our false egos and make a show of ourselves. And a good indication to see where we stand is if we are so anxious, I have to lead, and if we get frustrated, I was not given a slot to lead on the kirtan mela, that clearly indicates our joy is not coming from chanting the holy name, right? Because if it was coming from chanting the holy name, we wouldn't care whether we lead or somebody else leads, Yes. But if we only get joy when we are given a chance to lead, well, obviously we are running after the false ego satisfaction. Very clear. So we have to look a little deeper, Yes. So, the whole topic is in the book so much more explained and elaborated. There's so many more things which we will not have time to touch upon. Okay, so today I would like to touch upon one main Vaishnava etiquette rule which helps us to subdue the false ego, because Vaishnava etiquette and culture is our saving grace. If we were already spontaneously on the platform of Trinada Pisunichina, then no need for any kind of Vaishnava etiquette rules. We would follow it automatically. But because we are not there yet, that's why we need Vaishnava etiquette and culture. We have to follow it, and desiring to become more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. So, because the false ego is so near and dear to us, that's why we like to protect it and defend it at any given opportunity. So we know eating, sleeping, mating, defending, they are the animal propensities, right, which we should keep to a very bare minimum. And we talk a lot about eating, sleeping, mating, but we don't talk so much about defending, right? Not that much talk about. Yes. So, and here in this context, we of course talk about the verbal defense, right? Yes. So the Vaishnava etiquette is that a devotee should never defend himself. Yes. We should defend other devotees, or Guru, Krishna, when we see they are unfairly treated, or mistreated even, then we should step up and defend them. But ourselves, we should never defend. So, and this rule of Vaishnava etiquette is not that much understood, right? Definitely not in the Western world. Nobody is even thinking about it. But even here in India also, that we should not defend. Yes. And usually we do the opposite of what we should be doing. Instead of defending others, when somebody else gets badly treated, we keep quiet. We don't want to get involved. Oh, this may damage my relationships. If I say something, no, I better be quiet and look the other way. But if we are somehow, poked or attacked or whatever, then we are very good in defending every day. So we are actually doing the opposite of what we should be doing. And if everybody would follow that rule of Vaishnava etiquette, then there would be no need to defend ourselves anyway, because surely somebody would step up and defend us, right? Yes. Yes. But because we are not following the etiquette, we feel there's a need that we defend ourselves. And when we defend ourselves, who do we defend? False ego, nothing else, Even when we defend others, there can also be the false ego still mixed in, definitely, depending on how advanced we are. But at least it's not as strongly as defending ourselves. So defending ourselves means, when we answer, but actually it wasn't like that, it wasn't me, it actually was completely different, and this answering back, trying to have the last word, making clear, I know what's right, you're wrong, so this whole right-wrong business, who is right, who is wrong, it's all false ego. Yes, completely. So yes, and another very common mechanism of defense is to blame others. Yes. In other words, we say, it's not my fault, I'm okay. It's all the other people, that he, she, or the external circumstances, finding excuses. Actually, I couldn't do it because of this and this and this and this. These are all so common defense mechanisms. And we don't even identify it usually, Yes. Yeah, because it's also subtle, Yeah, so devotees should never defend themselves. There is a nice purport where Prabhupada states this. This is 1:1848. Prabhupada says, as such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. But in the case of their being performed against the Lord and his devotees, then the devotees take very strong action. Right? So it's exactly this Vaishnava etiquette. That for ourselves, no matter what happens, we don't defend, we don't care, We understand, it's just a temporary thing, and fame, infamy, big deal. At the moment of death, who cares how famous you were? Who cares how many followers you have on your YouTube channel? It all becomes completely insignificant, no importance, Yeah, it's all related, very temporary to the bodily platform, When we look at my relationship with Krishna, it's got nothing to do with this, Yes. But we get so absorbed in this, Yes. Especially with this online preaching, we have to be careful. Of course, there's a good use for it, and we can reach a lot of people. But when we get too anxious and always looking, oh, how many followers has he got, and oh, gee, I have to get more followers. And this is, we are feeding our false ego here. Yes. My YouTube channel is not even maintained. I don't care, So I don't want to fall into this trap, Yes, yes. Oh. Actually, I once, one devotee asked me to get the recordings of Banu Maharaj's lectures. So I went up to him and asked him, oh, Maharaj, where can we find your recordings of the lectures? And he said, I don't know. I don't record anything. I don't think my words are so important that the whole world has to hear them. That was his answer. Yes. And I thought, wow, yes. That's actually the humble Vaishnava mood. So if other people think, oh, my guru's words are important, let me broadcast it, okay. Others can do that service. But we should not think, oh, my words are so important, the whole world has to hear it. Then very easily we feed our false egos. Yes, yes. Even posting pictures of ourselves. Yes. There's a statement by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur where he said, as long as I'm in this world, you cannot put pictures of myself in public. And if I remember correctly, it was even in connection with having a picture on the altar. It was in connection of, having a picture on the altar. He said, when I'm gone, then you can do. But while I'm in this world, don't do it. It will not be good for my false ego. And I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta doesn't have a false ego. He said this to teach us, So it's very subtle, but to have your picture posted, it feeds the false ego, Yes, it does, it does. So devotees have to be mindful of this, Yes. Anyway, that's a different version of etiquette rule that we should avoid boosting and feeding our false ego. So we don't have time for that, but it's all in the book if you want to hear about it. But anyway, let's go back to the defense. So this defending propensity is so strong, and the false ego is pushing the tongue so much that sometimes, it's hard to even control, and it all bursts out, So that's the false ego pushing us. But actually, Yeah. So I remember when I once was giving the whole 10-hour seminar in Mayapur, then I usually spend about 2 hours on discussing this no defending. So after the lecture, I spoke to a young devotee. I can't even remember the topic, but he said something and I said something, and it wasn't a big argument or anything, but immediately he started defending. And I said to him, Prabhu, remember we just talked about it. Don't defend, please, don't defend. But he couldn't even hear it. He kept going. So and I was thinking, my God, how is it possible? We just talked about it for 2 hours, And I was even reminding him, so at least he could have said, oh yeah, okay, Mataji, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't defend. But no, he just couldn't hear it. He just kept on going. So that's the false ego in action, just pushing the tongue so much, and we can't even control it. Yes. So, big topic. And also it's interesting to see how mind, intelligence, false ego, they really affect each other backwards and forwards. In fact, it's even hard to really separate them. It's similarly in the ghost body, earth, water, fire, air, ether. So you show me in your body, where's the earth here? Where's the fire? Where's the water? hard to distinguish. It's all mixed, right? So similarly, subtle body also, hard to really separate the mind from the false ego. In fact, as we get more insights how the false ego affects us, we start realizing that the false ego uses the mind and intelligence as tools to get what the false ego wants, that gratification. So even when we chant japa, very often we think, oh, it's the uncontrolled mind that gives us trouble. But then when we look a little deeper, behind the mind is actually the false ego. And the false ego pushes the mind, and then the mind harasses us. But ultimately, the root cause is the false ego. Like whenever we have anything going on in circles in our mind, and we can't drop it, and it goes on in circles again and again. You know that experience? Yes? Or is it only me who knows it? Yes. So sure sign that the false ego takes us for a ride. Yes. Yes. It's the false ego, nothing else. So the false ego uses the mind as a tool. And in the same way, false ego uses the intelligence as a tool too. And that we can sometimes observe. Let's imagine there is some misunderstanding, some argument, and you hear everybody's side. You may experience that people have a completely different story to the whole situation. So different that you think, my God, are they speaking about the same episode? Or what? So different. Or you start thinking maybe one person is lying or something. But no, what happens is that the false ego contaminates the intelligence. And the contaminated intelligence twists things around just to suit you, and just to get the gratification for the false ego, that you were right. That's what's taking place. So the false ego is contaminating the intelligence, and the contaminated intelligence, twists it all right, and the person is convinced this is how it happened. Yes, because his intelligence is completely contaminated by the false ego, just so the false ego gets its gratification. Wow, pretty amazing how this all happens on the subtle level. So it's helpful to know, it's helpful to know that when we deal with devotees, no, they're not lying, it's just their contaminated intelligence. False ego just covered the intelligence, and then uses it as a tool, Yes. So all these amazing things are going on. So, and also very often, these debates, who is right, who is wrong, this goes on over the internet, that let's say somebody makes a statement about yourself or a situation you are in, and then you feel, oh, well, I have to respond to this somehow and comment, otherwise everybody thinks this is true what they're saying. So then you respond, then the other person, takes it all, twists it around, makes a weapon out of it, boom, shoots it back at you. And then again, what to do? I guess I have to somehow say something. So then again, same thing goes on. These debates, actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur puts them in the category of prajalpa. Yes, because in these debates, there is not the goal is not to humbly inquire and find out the absolute truth, but no, it's just an ego battle. You want to get your point across, and it really inflames the false ego like anything. We feel so irritated and angry, and we can't stop thinking about it, and the whole discussion goes in the mind in circles and all these kind of things. So devotees should not participate in this. Just pull out. Doesn't matter what other people think. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Finished. Let people say what they want to say. Yes. Otherwise, there's no end to it. It goes on and on and on, and the false ego just gets more and more aggravated and inflamed and all this kind of thing. So, of course, the whole topic of, let me share this. I'm sure you all have heard of Harisori Prabhu, right? Prabhupada's personal secretary. I know him quite well personally. He was in Australia when I joined there 38 years ago. So whenever I put some Prabhupada stories in my books, I usually double check with him whether this story is true, because there's so many stories Prabhupada said and this and that. So I want to make sure the stories I put in the books, they're actually verified, not just some Prabhupada stories which nobody can really verify. So then when I wrote the False Ego book, I asked Harisori Prabhu, Prabhu, do you have a story where you defended towards Prabhupada? And he wrote me this nice story, which I included in the book. So the story goes like this. Prabhupada asked Harisori Prabhu, please give me the red folder from the Almirah. So Harisori Prabhu goes to the cupboard and says, Prabhupada, there is no red folder. Prabhupada repeats, give me the red folder. Harisori Prabhu, Prabhupada, I cannot see a red folder. Prabhupada repeats a third time. So then Harisori Prabhu says, Prabhupada, I can only see a pink folder. Do you mean the pink folder? Prabhupada doesn't answer. So Harisori Prabhu takes the folder which he thinks is pink, and he gives it to Prabhupada and says, Prabhupada, it's pink, it's not red. Wow, so this is a real, we shouldn't behave like that towards our spiritual master. It's a real false ego thing, he's trying to say to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you're wrong, I'm right, it's pink, it's not red. And Prabhupada got so furious, he was chastising him, he was giving him a whole lecture for 10 minutes, So now you have become very expert in defending yourself towards your spiritual master, and. He really smashed him to bits and pieces, But Harisori Prabhu is sharing that actually it felt so good to be once again humbled, and because he's sharing that he could feel over the previous days he was in a wrong consciousness and getting a bit carried away there. So then, boom, Prabhupada put him back into his position, and he said it felt really good, So, we can imagine, or let us imagine, even if our guru chastises us for something which we did not even do. So, what's the right behavior? What? Humbly accepted, exactly. We should think, okay, Krishna, I've been a rascal so many other times and I didn't get chastised. So now let me accept the chastisement as an opportunity to let go of my false ego. So it definitely would not be proper to defend towards the Guru and say, oh, actually, Guru Maharaj, it wasn't like this, and actually it wasn't me, and actually it was somebody else, and. This would be so inappropriate, so inappropriate. Defending, especially towards seniors, is really inappropriate. But even towards juniors, we should also not defend. We should also not defend. Actually, in this regard, there is the story, I think Shyamasundar Prabhu tells it in one of his Chasing the Rhinos with the Swami books, where, Prabhupada installed the deities in London and so many things went wrong. And Prabhupada was running around and trying to get things happening. And then some bhakta said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, just chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada humbly accepted it. He sat down and chanted Hare Krishna. He didn't defend, oh, who are you? You shouldn't instruct your spiritual master like this and stuff, you know. So yes, even towards juniors, we ourselves should not defend. You know, if we feel a devotee should be corrected, then better to tell another senior devotee and say to him, or, by the way, can you correct this younger devotee? He was behaving like this and this to me. You know, but we ourselves should not defend. And I mean, you imagine, you know, your guru chastises you for something which you didn't do. That's a challenge for the false ego, you know. I mean, the false ego is pushing, whispering in our ears, hey, you know, you have to let him know it wasn't you, and what will he think of you now, and this and that. You know, so it would be a real challenge, right? Yes, yes. And again, if everybody follows the etiquette, if it is something serious, then surely enough somebody else would step up and go to Guru and say, oh, actually, Guru Maharaj, it was a little different and it was actually not that person's fault, you know, so somebody else can point it out. Yeah, so very important rule of Vaishnava etiquette. And of course, this whole rule of not defending brings us to the topic of tolerance. You know, the tolerance is such an important quality to cultivate. Our main examples are always Haridas Thakur, Prahlad Maharaj, you know, to tolerate. Yes, because tolerance is like the criteria to actually measure a person's spiritual strength and advancement, and how tolerant a person can be, you know. Because tolerance means false ego is dissolved, subdued. You can just let it go by. It doesn't provoke you and so on, you know. Yes. So of course with mundane eyes, again, what is success in material life is the lowest in spiritual life. So in mundane eyes, you know, with mundane eyes, tolerance is weakness, you know. Not defending is what? You're not standing up for yourself and defend and, you know. So it's again diametrically opposite, you know. In the material world, nobody thinks that tolerance is a worthwhile quality to develop. Everybody is in the mood of just fighting back and pushing themselves forward and stepping on each other's heads and so on. You know, yeah. So, but that would be really low with spiritual eyes, you know, spiritual vision. Yes. Yes. So tolerance. I want to read you a few little quotes I put into my verse book under T for tolerance. This one, 1848, where we just read from the purport, the actual verse goes, the devotees of the Lord are so forbearing, which is another word for tolerant, that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. So to take revenge, to avenge, this is also a form of defense. Right? Yes. Oh, I'm going to get back to them. I'm going to do something nasty to them and boo, you know. Yeah, it's a form of defending the false ego, you know. Yeah, so very powerful verse, you know, even though they're defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed. I mean, there are some exceptions where a devotee can defend, when the 6 aggressors attack, you know. What are they again? Burns the house, kidnaps the wife, occupies another land, another person's land, plundering riches, attacking with a deadly weapon. Prabhupada was asked whether it's okay to kill mosquitoes, and Prabhupada said, yes, if they bite you, then they're attacking with a weapon, and it can be deadly, dengue fever, malaria, so you can kill them. But if they don't bite, then you should not kill them. So yes, when one of the 6 aggressors attack, then this gives permission to defend. But that doesn't happen every day, But these provocations for the false ego, they do happen every day, There's another nice statement where it says, that's in the 11th canto, tolerance means to patiently endure unhappiness, such as that provoked by insults or negligence of others. In other words, to be insulted or neglected. This is probably one of the biggest challenges for the false ego, insults or neglect. So, tolerance means to patiently endure the unhappiness coming from that. Yes. So now, of course, very often the question is, well, how much can we tolerate? Or people say, this tolerating doesn't work for me. If I tolerate, then it all builds up inside and I get all sick and I explode and all these kind of things. So we have to understand there's a difference between tolerance and simply suppressing our emotions or the false ego. So suppressing is not tolerating. When we suppress, then inside the false ego battle continues, right? False ego keeps nagging us. Oh, not fair. You should have defended, you should have said something. False ego is crying out for justice. Yes. So, when we simply suppress, then the whole battle continues inside and it builds up, and then we explode or get sick or whatever. But that's not tolerating. So to tolerate means that we need humility for a start, and we have this mood that actually I deserve so much worse, but Krishna is so kind, he only gives me 1 drop of what I really deserve. So if we have this mood, that will quieten the false ego. If we say it with humility and sincerity, if we really feel, actually, I must be deserving this. Probably I did something to that person in our last life, or maybe even in this life, and actually I'm such a rascal, I would deserve so much more. But Krishna is very kind, So when we see Krishna's hand in the picture, what is Krishna trying to teach me? There must be something, there must be some reason why I'm experiencing this situation. So we have to see Krishna's hand in arrangement in the whole situation. That's actually what it means to be Krishna conscious. Yes. That we see Krishna's hand in the whole situation. So, and that's, what dissolves and subdues the false ego. Then this internal false ego battle will not continue. Yes. So for tolerance, to cultivate tolerance, let me see if you listened attentively. To cultivate tolerance, what 2 tools do we need? Humility. Yes. So how do we summarize it? What do we need? We have to have faith. Faith in Krishna. You know? Without faith in Krishna, we cannot see Krishna's hand in the whole game. We cannot see, oh, actually I deserve so much more than this, but Krishna is so kind. That vision we can only have if we have strong faith in Krishna. And I guess that's where we sometimes lack. You know, I've been in situations where the person can't even connect his situation with Krishna in the picture. He can't see it. You know? Yes. So that's lack of faith. You know? Yes. Yeah, I mean, see, Krishna consciousness is such an internal thing, you know. I've had once this situation with one devotee, he's Brahmin initiated, was traveling as a brahmachari with his guru and this and that and this and that, doing his puja every morning. But then Krishna gave him some situation, you know, which was hard to digest for him. He just could not see that Krishna is trying to smash his desires to control things. You know, and it just went the other way he was expecting it. And he could not see Krishna's hand in the whole thing, you know. So externally we may go through so many motions here within Krishna consciousness, you know, but then when Krishna tests us, whoops, all of a sudden we can't even see Krishna's arrangement in the whole picture. But that's what it means to be Krishna conscious, you know. Yes. So only if we have humility and faith in Krishna, then we can actually cultivate tolerance, you know. Yes, yes. Yeah, so very important. I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, faith, unflinching faith in Krishna is the currency by which we purchase Krishna. Yes. So faith is so important, you know. Caring for devotees, training them, it's all about nourishing and protecting a devotee's faith. That's the essence of devotee care, actually. Yes. So I do want to share one more little thing before we open for questions. A question which also often comes up, but just in case it doesn't come up. Often people say, but Mataji, you know, out there in the material world, if we tolerate, then people just walk all over us, you know. I remember once, you know, the question came up and the person said, but Mataji, in the real world, and I said, hang on, what's the real world, you know? What is the real world? Do you mean the nonsensical stage performance? You think that's the real world? Or do you think my relationship with Krishna, that's the real world, you know? It was funny. Yeah, so people say, in the real world, if you tolerate, you don't get anywhere. Well, my answer to this is, even out there in material dealings, we have to very carefully look whether it's worth defending or maybe not. And just to illustrate this, even though preachers are not meant to tell so much stories about themselves, but I do want to share the story which makes the point, you know. So some 15 years ago, the German taxation department charged me to pay 1,500 euros, which is quite a bit of money. How much is it? 1.5 lakh or something, you know. Tax, which I was not meant to pay. They were just cheating me. So, and I had 3 months' time to make my statement about this, and I missed the 3 months period because I was traveling. And somebody else accepted the letter on my behalf, and they didn't clearly communicate what was in the letter. So I missed my chance to say, forget it, this is not right, you know. So, and then when I got the letter, of course, my false ego was on the ceiling there. I was so furious. How can they cheat me like this? And they're ripping me off, and my God. So I rang immediately the taxation department. Immediately I started arguing with this lady, and she said, well, you missed your chance. You can take the matter to court and. So, and my whole, sadhana was down the drain. I couldn't think of anything else but this whole story and what to do and how can they do this and the whole thing was going around in circles. I couldn't drop it and then thank God I remembered one verse and statement from the Bhagavatam. So sometimes it is useful to know a little bit of Shastra. And because I don't know so much, I don't have so much in the head, that's why I have my little verse book. So I want to read this to you. This is 4:19:34. The verse goes as follows. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. Yes, well, I could immediately experience darkest region of materialistic thought. So then Prabhupada's purport. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential, meaning Krishna's arrangement. Seeing Krishna in the picture. Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals. For the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. One should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. So because I wrote it in my verse book, I remembered it. The writing actually helps you to remember. So, and then I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna pay it. Forget it. Is this important at the moment of death, whether I paid the money or not? No, not important. And I thought to myself, okay, in this lifetime I've hardly paid any tax at all, so maybe I'm still owing them something. So let them have it. And I paid it. But it took me a while. It took 2-3 days for the false ego to quieten down, because the false ego was still rebelling. You shouldn't have paid that. Krishna's Lakshmi. You could have done something better with it. And how they dare you to cheat you like this? And it was still going on for a few days, but then a few days and later on it was finished. Yeah, so I find this a good example of, even in mundane dealings, we have to consider very carefully. And again, we have to have a mentor, a counselor, who tells us, hey, just pay it. It's not worth it. You may not even, when the court goes, your sadhana is down the drain, you will not be able to concentrate on chanting Hare Krishna for the next 6 months. So just forget it. Sometimes we just need somebody, who puts things into perspective, yes. So even in mundane dealings, we may look like the loser. Actually, that false ego book, one Prabhupada disciple in New Vrindavan, he did the editing, Gopish Prabhu. And after he edited that chapter, he wrote back to me, Mataji, I think I wouldn't have paid the 1,500 years. Yes. So, Yeah, but even in mundane dealings, we may look externally with mundane eyes, we look like the loser. But from a spiritual point, we are the winner. You know? At the moment of death, we have learned to subdue our false ego, to let things go by without getting provoked. You know? We may look very successful with mundane vision, but always defending, but then at the moment of death, guaranteed we have to do another round in the material world, because false ego is not subdued and dissolved, Yes. So even in mundane dealings, we have to be very careful and carefully considering. I don't want to make an absolute statement that one should never ever defend. There may be some situations where it is our duty to defend, but it has to be very carefully considered if it's worth it, yes. And of course, Prabhupada, he was leading court cases, Juhu, Mr. Nair, and so on. But he was fighting on Krishna's behalf. He didn't lead the court cases for his false ego's gratification to be right or something. No, he was a warrior on Krishna's behalf, and that's why he was winning, yes. Okay, let me see if we have any questions. There must be some question, since it is such a practical topic. Or are you all speechless? Huh? From the ladies' side?
Thank you so much, Mataji, for again wonderful class today. So here you told we have to develop tolerance. So you gave 2 points like humility and faith in Krishna. So like sometimes we make mistakes, and how to see is Krishna hand? Is that Krishna's hand or it's our weakness?
Well, let's put it that way. Krishna is very expert in smashing our false ego. Yes. I mean, often it's so subtle, that some of you may have that experience. You're all excited, I'm invited to lead the Prabhupada Guru Puja, and then blah, you're messing up all the verses there or something. I mean, you have it there on the board, but in many temples it's not on the board, and you think you all know it, and you're just in the middle of enjoying your beautiful voice, and then blah, you're messing it all up, Right? Anybody had that experience? Huh? Yes? Yes. Yes, so Krishna knows, Or you walk in with a whole tray of prasadam for your guru, and then you trip over something, and boom, the whole thing is on the floor, you're making a fool out of yourself. So, yeah, I mean, Krishna knows, and once you know a little bit how the false ego works and so on, then when these things happen, you can just smile to yourself. Okay, thank you, Krishna, for making me a little humble and putting me in my place and so on. So yeah, I mean, very often it is Krishna smashing our pride, and also false ego blocks our intelligence, and we can't see things properly. And then also we can make mistakes just because we think it should be like this and we are right and all that, and then, okay, yes, was wrong, Yeah, so Krishna just arranges these things all the time, It's very subtle, and often we don't even recognize it as Krishna being there correcting us and giving us an opportunity to let go of our false ego. And I mean, family life gives so much opportunities, my God, to develop tolerance. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, we said defending is inappropriate, especially towards a person who is senior. So, sorry to say, but Prabhupada says the husband wants to be in the superior position. So the wife should not defend herself towards the husband. And if we actually follow these etiquettes, then there will be no arguments. How long can he crawl by himself if she doesn't defend? So, yes. So in family life, from outside, it may look like, these grihastas, what are they contributing? They're just having babies and making money, But the whole purification is internal. So much purification going on. Because you have to tolerate. You have to be selfless. You have to serve. So much intense purification. From outside, it may look like they don't contribute that much, but it's all internal. And then comes the next ashram, Vanaprastha ashram. And then, you actually have that necessary purification to really go and preach and share, yes. But Vanaprastha ashram is not really established properly in ISKCON yet, So that's why we often don't understand things, Like sometimes, I think I mentioned it the other day, that sometimes, or yesterday, that sometimes I meet couples, young couples, they say, oh, we don't want children, we just want to travel and preach. Sorry, wrong ashram. That's the Vanaprastha ashram. How much can a young couple preach? Their heart is full of material desires, just got married, just in the honeymoon phase. How much can you actually preach? So first have your babies and learn to tolerate and become selfless and create a whole, spiritual atmosphere in your home, a culture of bhakti. So that gives you all the necessary purification. And then in the Vanaprastha ashram, you can preach so much, Of course, a little bit of preaching as a grihasta we can also do, house programs and all that. But the emphasis is on the internal purification. Yes, Because family life, so much opportunity to become tolerant. I once heard the statement, 30 years of grihasta ashram and you will be a pure devotee. But it has to be grihasta ashram. Many devotees' family life is not an ashram. Yes. Ashram means Bhagavatam, holy name, have to be the center. Ashram means, strictly speaking, there should be Mangalarti. And not at 7, but at 5. Otherwise 7 is not Mangal anymore, Not so auspicious. Yes. So, and just, I describe it all in the family life book there. Just this little detail of Mangalarti puts everything in its place. Right? Because then you have to take rest early. You can't eat a whole big plate of prasad at 9 o'clock. Otherwise, there will be no Mangalarti. Yeah, it puts everything into place. Yes. So it has to be an ashram. Yeah. Okay, what else? There was some other hand up. Let's go back to false ego, tolerance. Wasn't there somebody else? Yes. So, yes.
Harisha Mataji, you said there is a difference between tolerance and suppressing.
Yes.
How do we know that whether I'm because tolerance also depends on our spiritual strength and things. So, how much to do and how much.
Tolerance also depends on what?
Our spiritual strength and.
On what?
Spiritual strength and sadhana and all this.
Strength. Okay.
So how do we know that how much to tolerate and how much to not to suppress?
Well, in the whole mentorship seminar we said that as long as we have material attachments and material desires, which I think we all have, we can't objectively assess ourselves. We can't actually clearly see. So that's why we need a mentor. Mentor will help us. But I mean, one indication is, whether we can really truly see Krishna's hand in the picture, and whether the, false ego is subdued and it's not cooking there inside, I mean, we can feel this. If we can really let go of it and say, okay, Krishna is teaching me something, so obviously this is what I'm deserving. If we can truly say this, then we will not feel agitated anymore. And there will be no negativity building up, and false ego will not be crying for justice there, But yeah, I mean, that's the point. In regards to the false ego, so important that we have a mentor, that we have this trusting, well-wishing friend, where we know this person has no other interest except helping us in our growth. And then that person will help us to see, because it's also a gradual process to get there. We may be able to see Krishna's hand in one sense, but the false ego is still rebelling, So then we just need the help of this well-wishing friend who encourages us and says, yeah, so just let it go by. See it as a chance to let go of your false ego. Cry out to Krishna, please help me, Yes. I mean, the ultimate solution of dissolving the false ego is to cry out to Krishna, because it's so deep. We've been carrying it with us for so many lifetimes. We, out of our own strength, we can't free ourselves. It is Hiranyakashipu there. I always like to see Hiranyakashipu as an embodiment of false ego, envy, He's really the personification of this. So that's why Lord Nrsimhadev, we have to invite him to come with his sharp nails and do the heart surgery, Like last week I was in the Nrsimha temple. So there Nrsimhadev is downstairs and upstairs is Radha Krishna. So this is exactly how it is. Lord Nrsimhadev prepares the heart so we can approach Radha Krishna. So first we have to, approach Lord Nrsimhadev, and then we can go upstairs. Yes. Anything else from the ladies' side, maybe? No? Nothing else? Yes, Mataji. Can somebody bring her the mic?
Should we say something when the children tell us something, or should we keep quiet?
No, with the children we have to train them. Yes. Yeah. With the children, if they say some ridiculous thing, but we have to be careful that we don't do it in the mood of defending. That very peacefully we say, listen, you don't speak like this to your parents. This is very naughty, Yes, yes. Yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, parents have told me how their children provoke their false ego like anything, Yes, yes. Yeah, and I also have that experience with young devotees. They can also really provoke your false ego. So, yeah, we have to be very careful that we don't deal with false ego mood with the children or young devotees. Because, see, I'm sure we all have that experience, when we see somebody doing something wrong, and we have this mood, oh, I have to immediately right now tell them, how can you do this? Boo, right? You have had that experience? Anybody who is in the situation of having to correct others. So we should never correct in that huffy, false ego mood. Doesn't matter how perfect the correction may be. If it is given in this huffy, false ego mood, the whole correction will be contaminated. That's the power of the false ego. False ego contaminates the best idea, the best correction, completely poisoned, you know? Because when we give it in that false ego mood, it only ignites our false ego. You know, the person who is receiving that correction. It ignites their false ego. And that's the contamination. So whenever, no matter whether it's with children or young devotees or whatever, you know, whenever we find ourselves in the situation where we have to correct somebody, and if we feel, oh, we are so anxious and agitated and irritated, we should not correct in this moment. We should wait until we really cool down. And it may mean we have to sleep it over, you know. Usually sleeping one night is a good remedy. Then the next morning the world already looks very different, you know. And things have settled a bit, the dust has settled. So, or we may have to sleep over 2 nights, you know, depending on how long it takes for us to cool down. And then when we really cool down, then we can go up to the person and say, oh, you remember when you did this and this, or said that and that, this was actually not proper, you know, yes, yes. And also good tip is, before we give the correction, we try and have these 2 minutes of a prayerful mood. Please, Krishna, help me to get this correction across in a humble mood, in a well-wishing mood, wanting the very best for this person, being the dearmost friend. So at least if we have that prayerful mood, then for 2 minutes, Krishna allows us to be free from false ego and envy. Actually, there is a Vaishnava etiquette rule that we should not correct anybody when we are envious. Envy and false ego, they go hand in hand. They like each other, you know, they're good friends. So yes, because again, best correction is poisoned if it is given with envy. And I'm sure we all have that experience from both sides, that we either correct somebody or we are corrected in some huffy, false ego, envious mood. You know, you feel all really bad afterwards. You know, from both sides. Even when you give the correction, you feel all unpleasant. So that's the contamination of the false ego, you know, yes, yes. So same with children, you know, if we deal with them in a false ego mood, then that inflames their false ego, you know, yeah, and then we can't be surprised that they, you know, they become more rebellious and obnoxious there, you know, so yeah. Not easy, but that's again why family life is so purifying, you know. So even with the children, it's a whole journey, you know, to deal with them without false ego, you know. Yes. All right, so I want to take the opportunity to thank you all very much for allowing me to visit. It's been a great pleasure to visit you once again and here in Sheshadipuram Jagannath Temple. So please forgive me if I said anything that I shouldn't have said. Sometimes unknowingly this happens, that people get a little upset or something. And yes, so as I may have mentioned, over Christmas we have again a Holy Name Retreat in Ekachakra, 23rd to 27th of December. If anybody wants to come, please come, would be fantastic. I remember in the past there was some devotees who came and attended. It's a very nice experience. For 4 nights we stay in Ekachakra. All you have to do is book on my website, theholynameretreat.net, and you register on my website, and you have to be in time in Mayapur, and I arrange everything, the bus, accommodation, prasadam, everything. Really sweet and deep experience. Just being for 4 nights in Ekachakra, you can't go wrong. Who has been to Ekachakra? Few of you, but not everybody. And usually when people go to Ekachakra, they just do a day trip, 4 hours there, 4 hours back. Whew, that's a bit grueling, but we stay there for 4 nights. So it's a whole different thing. You actually really enter a different reality. And I have a whole systematic thing there. You get a folder with materials. We discuss, have exercises in the evenings. We have evening kirtans where we apply what we discussed during the day. I mean, it's quite powerful. And I'm not saying that out of false ego because it's my holy name retreat. But no, I'm just the tour guide, Sri Harinam Prabhu is the guest. And I'm just the tour guide taking my audience on a journey. So if you have opportunity to come, it would be great to receive you there. And if there's still anybody who didn't get the books they wanted to get, now is your last chance. Please don't knock on my door at 10 o'clock at night. Oh, I want to have a false ego book. I want to wrap everything up, and I'm leaving early tomorrow morning. Okay, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi, Hare Hare Krishna.